All right, guys, thank you for joining me for the Leaky Gut Solution web class. My name is Amy Catherine, if you haven't met me, and my background is in nutritional biochemistry. I graduated in 2015 from West Virginia University. I completed my coaching certification through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition in New York City. I'm currently full-time employed as a nutritional health coach for Natural Grocers in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And next month, I begin my doctoral studies in integrative and functional medicine. And I am super passionate about education and giving everyone information that can really help empower them to take control of their health and improve their overall quality of life. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to join me today. So thrilled that you guys are here with me. So I'm going to try to move through this so I don't take up too much of your time, but go slow enough that you can take notes. And also, please, along the way, I have the message center open so I can see if you have any questions. Just type that into the chat box, and I'll see those pop up, and we'll just cover those as we go through too. So with that said, let's just hop right into the presentation here. So our gut, which is our GI or gastrointestinal system, is really the gateway to our overall health. And more current research is supportive of this. Our gut microbiome is actually an ecosystem of organisms, including bacteria, yeast, fungi, viruses, and protozoan, and they are throughout our digestive tract. And far beyond just digestive health, our other organ systems are also closely related to our gut health, and these include our immune system, our endocrine system, our nervous system, our circulatory system, our integumentary system, or our skin, our respiratory system, and our reproductive system are all intimately tied into our gut health. And so I just have a few points that I want us to start off to consider. There is actually 10 times the amount of bacterial cells in our body than our own cells. 10 times. So that's really just wrap your head around that. So the majority of them are actually found in our digestive system. Our GI system contains 90% of our serotonin, the happy hormone. So 90% of our serotonin is actually found in our gut. I don't know if you know that. Is this new to anyone? Did you know? You can type in and answer the question. Most importantly, yeah, it's new to you, Rebecca, right? It's new to a lot of people, yeah. And okay, good. Yeah, I'm glad that. Yeah, so that's why it's a lot of our hormones are actually produced in our gut. And more importantly, and most importantly, I knew that 60% of our immune system is in our gut too. Leah, I actually have that number as 70% from the research. But yeah, of our immune system, that was our immune system. 70% of our immune system is housed in our gut as well. Great. Good job, Leah. So as you can tell, our gut health doesn't just stop at digesting our food. It affects nearly every system in our bodies. So let's just keep going on here. And so this web class is all about leaky gut, but what exactly is leaky gut? So leaky gut is just a term, like a layman's term, that refers to the medical term of intestinal hyperpermeability. And it's become increasingly more common health problem that is being diagnosed. It causes major health problems, including, I'm going to let someone in here. Okay, so even including autoimmune disorders, a lot of them are linked to our gut. Again, like we said, 70% of our immune system is housed in our gut. But how? How does this happen though? Intestinal hyperpermeability is exactly what it sounds like. Our digestive tract is no longer able to ensure that things stay inside and that the bad stays out. Instead, the tight junctions, which are actually, that's the name of the proteins that actually hold the intestinal walls together, and the tight junctions become loosened in leaky gut, and it leaves sizable gaps. And then what happens is undigested food particles and digestive fluids and enzymes and sometimes toxins, they begin to enter our bloodstream. And then our body reacts to these foreign particles in our blood by producing immune antibodies. They're right there in our gut on the other side of the digestive lining, just waiting to be, on defense. So we also have the pro-inflammatory cells, and they're ready to fight off those foreign particles that leak into, out of the lining. And what happens is this is a breeding ground for chronic inflammation, food allergies, and a lot of other health complications. And of course, once this happens, there's actually no signs of improvement until you actually start addressing that gut permeability. And fortunately, with current research, we now have a lot better understanding of the causes, the obstacles, and treatment methods for leaky gut. So there is a stop, and people are getting relief to their digestive issues, and also a lot of their other symptoms are subsiding. But let's start off by talking about more causes of leaky gut. Several factors have been proven to negatively affect our gut's integrity, and the most prominent ones are the standard American diet, otherwise known as the SAD diet, exposure to chemicals. We're exposed to them all the time in many different forms. We're going to go into each one of these a little bit more in depth. Chronic infections, gluten and other grains, food allergies, excessive medications can really affect the gut's integrity, and also our stress levels have a profound effect on our gut's integrity. So let's just talk about some of the heaviest hitters here. The standard American diet, rightfully known as the SAD diet. It's one of the leading causes of chronic health issues that we see today. And I'm sure that we're all, becoming more and more aware of this. And according to a 2009 study that was conducted by the USDA, 63% of the calories that Americans are consuming, they came from processed foods, which contained preservatives, refined grains, and added sugars and added oils. And it's almost as though the general public took it upon themselves to refigure our food pyramid to consist of grain at the base, industrialized dairy in the middle, and then sugar at the top. And these are really make up the primary components of the standard American diet. And when in all honesty, none of these foods really have any business of being part of our diets at all. But what is food? So that's a term that I like to use when we're talking about our standard American diet foods. You can tell, call it what you want. I like the term food. I also like frankenfoods. They're also known as food-like substances or fake food. But it's most definitely can't really call most of our food in the standard American diet real food or whole food. When the majority of our diets are packaged meals with, when you look at the ingredient list, it's a paragraph long, and it includes terms we can't understand or pronounce. When that's a telltale sign that we're not eating real food. We're eating manufactured food and made in a lab by scientists in white coats. But a couple of alarming facts to note is that the United States FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, they have approved approximately 3,000 different food additives, preservatives, and colorings without adequate research on safety, and some no research at all. It's really cowboys land out there. It's basically innocent until proven guilty. Things get approved, and the average person ingests over 150 pounds of additives each year in our diet by eating these processed foods or fruits. The magnitude that these chemicals are allowed into our lives is actually incomprehensible when you start studying it. That these are allowed, that we're allowed to eat these, and that we've even been told that they're safe a lot of times. And then research comes out later, just like trans fats. We were told that margarine was healthy for us, butter was not healthy for us, so we all started eating margarine. I grew up in that time. And then later, the research really had to compound to before they actually were admitted, yeah, these are really, really bad for you. But we're becoming more and more aware now of the consequences of this fake food lifestyle. And I think COVID is even bringing this to the forefront, because people suffering from the disorders and chronic disease are actually at the forefront and the most vulnerable with COVID. But it's unacceptable. But I'm really thankful that the information is out here, and we all have the internet, and the research is becoming acknowledged, and people are starting to realize this lifestyle can be no longer. But it's only one factor in the leaky gut epidemic. It's definitely a big one, but it's only one. So up next, I'm going to be discussing other factors responsible for the onset and progression of leaky gut. So what else are we looking at? Inflammation is a vital immune response, right? We need inflammation. It's the body's attempt to defend itself against pathogens. It's to heal us from any kind of injury and repair damaged tissues. Our inflammatory response is beneficial for us. However, chronic inflammation is not beneficial to our bodies in any way. What happens, it actually worsens the body's ability to recognize foreign invaders. It's always on high alert, and it puts the body into a state of stress for extended periods of time, which causes lasting damage, increased food allergies and sensitivities, because we have this immune response. What we're looking for is a healthy immune response, but instead what happens is we've got one, that's on alert, and then we start having more food sensitivities, and eventually it can lead to autoimmune disorders. And especially depending, genetics can play a role in this as well, but definitely these other factors tie into that. And this type of inflammation, chronic inflammation, it can be caused by a number of things, but largely it's seen as a result of leaky gut syndrome, right? Because things are getting, leaking out. Those tight junctions are not tight anymore, and things leak out. Put the immune system on high demand, and we also have these poor dietary habits that worsen the condition. And if the chronic inflammation goes untreated, leaky gut, it's like you're stuck in this washing machine. It gets worsened, and the body ultimately loses its ability to repair from the damage. So what are some more causes? Gluten. It's a general term for a mix of proteins that are in many grains, such as our wheat, barley, and rye. So gluten has found itself in much of our food supply. And for those who have celiac disease, will even know this, or be even more aware if they've actually started trying to exclude. When you actually start trying to remove gluten, you start seeing that it's disguised in packaged foods, and it's in most pre-prepared dishes that you buy at the store. Somehow it's in there, and it acts as a thickening agent, and they use it, and it's hidden in so many of our foods. So it's no surprise that our consumption of gluten has increased immensely, as our health issues have also been on the rise, right? Gluten allergies, sensitivities, and intolerances are becoming increasingly more common. Gluten-free has even become a buzzword that often a lot of people who don't have gluten sensitivities may even just jump on the bandwagon within the health community. And people are, beginning to finally explore, though, that gluten can be dangerous for their health. And how specifically dangerous is it? Well, research is starting to support that the gluten is responsible for making your gut leaky. Simple as that, because there is a protein found in gluten and is called zonulin, zonulin. That's the protein found in gluten that increases the permeability of the gut by further opening those spaces between the cells and loosening those tight junctions, just, causing damage. The antibodies that normally are released as a result of leaky gut are also accompanied by more antibodies created to attack one of of gluten's most prominent building blocks. So there's another one, gliadin. That's another protein that our antibodies recognize as foreign, and this leads to more inflammation, right? As this, or the junctions are loosened, the gliadin gets the zonulin loosens those junctions, and then the gluten, the protein gliadin leaks out of the digestive tract, and the inflammatory or immune system responds with more inflammation fighting it. The body gets confused, and that's when you start having other health complications, and they can, depending on, and it's very individual to people. Like, that's the thing, like, this can, because it's related to your immune response, that the immune's then goes into the blood, and they're on high alert, and they're and this, so now you've got antibodies throughout your body on high alert, and it can manifest in people's lives with, depending on your genetics, in various forms of health complications. So in other words, what happens is your body reacts to the consumption of the gluten by creating a defense mechanism to fight it. And once that damage has occurred within the digestive tract, it's then distributed throughout the entire body in your blood system, right? That was a lot. So aside from contributing, if not entirely causing leaky gut, gluten increases the inflammation and the overall digestive distress that one suffers. And it alters the balance of our microbiome. So our microbiome, again, is the bacteria and the viruses and the protozoa that make up that are part of our digestive tract. They coexist, and they must be equipped with the healthy bacteria in order to be successful in carrying out the necessary functions. And those functions are healthy digestion, a healthy immune response, healthy nutrient absorption, hormone regulation. The bacteria, healthy bacteria, are important for your vitamin production, and they also aid in detoxifying your body, and and your mood management. Like, there's so much research showing that the microbiome is linked to all of these things. So if you have a healthy microbiome, you're going to have healthier responses and better nutrient absorption. But when you have dysbiosis, which means you have an overproduction of the bad bacteria, because it's all in there, and when it gets out of whack, then you start having damage to your digestive lining, and now you're not absorbing your nutrients properly. So you can see how this kind of ends up like feeding itself in sort of like a cycle. So the gluten produces both primary and secondary effects. So let's talk about the primary effects. These are, and we've already spoke about some of these, the intestinal hyperpermeability, which is also known as leaky gut. It also affects permeability of your blood-brain barrier. It's linked to the onset of autoimmune diseases such as celiac disease, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis. The development of psychological disorders, depression as one of those, dysbiosis, which is the abnormal bacterial growth, and acute allergic responses, or your IgE responses, and also a delayed antibody response when you start having your immune system affected. And so all of these issues are very serious within themselves, within your body, and they also can cause further complications, which are actually the secondary effects. And so those are, again, we mentioned the severe nutrient deficiencies, especially iron and B12 are really good examples that you'll find deficiencies. And then you have the systemic inflammation that we were talking about, and that starts affecting your organs and tissues and breaks, your body sometimes begins to attack itself. So it seems a bit redundant that I keep going on about this and how your body acts on gluten, but I really want you to understand that, because the research is compounding in support of this, and it's one of the most important pieces that you can take away today from this class if you've been experiencing any kind of symptoms, is maybe just trying to take out the gluten to see how it, how your body reacts. But it's a major component of the leaky gut cycle, and that's why I spent so much time on it. And it's present in the onset, the maintenance, and progression of this damaging condition. And so it's really important to take away today. So the gluten's path to disease is pretty direct when you realize you have zonulin that is kind of responsible for loosening the junctions, and then the other protein, gliadin, that your body recognizes as foreign. So the first step in the path of gluten's path to disease is that you don't even know that it's happening, right? It can be you can be inflamed and not even know it. They do have measurements now. They can measure your C-reactive protein and know if you have inflammation. And at this point, the first step, you have sometimes little to no symptoms that you recognize as really problematic. And this is where most people assume that gluten won't hurt them. I've been there myself. It was actually me eliminating the gluten and do what they call an elimination diet. When I took it out and reintroduced it, that I noticed that my body was having a lot of issues with it. And that's therefore you eat it, no problem. And the lack of apparent symptoms does not mean that the gluten isn't hurting your gut. It in fact takes exposure over time and the accumulation of damage before leaky gut will be noticeable. And so for those who cut out gluten before they feel any physical discomfort, they're still treating an underlying issue even though they can't quite feel it yet. But the next step is the progression of subclinical problems. And this is where leaky gut truly begins to develop. And this is the first thing that people tend to notice, is that they might have increased food or environmental allergies. I'm sure we've all had those friends and family in our lives that never had any kind of seasonal allergies, and then inexplicably they have adult onset allergy, seasonal allergies, or all of a sudden they can't tolerate a food that they used to be able to tolerate. And digestive stress may actually also starts becoming more frequent. And it's common that people don't link this to gluten and at this point. And so the last step is recognizing the problem. However, it's not usually recognizing gluten as a problem, but you start to acknowledge that you have a problem. And if someone is diagnosed with a chronic disease, for example, or develops inflammatory changes, and the doctors begin to treat the symptoms of these conditions with prescription medication, which is what they're trained to do, right? In medical school, they're trained to prescribe medication rather than examining their origin. However, thankfully, there is an emerging field of medical doctors who are studying what they call functional medicine. I don't know. Has anybody heard of functional medicine? Like a functional medicine doctor? No. June says no. Okay. Yeah, so it's relatively new. There was sort of like, is that like integrative medicine? It is very similar to integrative medicine, Leah. So you have the naturopathic medicine, and then you had integrative medicine spin off of that. And functional medicine is a new form, and they call it functional. I think it's just a hot ticket, but there are actually schools of functional medicine for medical doctors to go and get their specialization. And it's basically where they start looking at the root causes, because so many medical doctors, it did spin off from integrative medicine, yeah, because they were, they wanted to take care of their patients and actually get to the root cause, and that's where functional medicine came in. Yeah, so it's a shame that this happens, but it's also a very good thing that we have this new form of medicine called functional medicine. And I have a link to functional medicine primary care facility that I'm going to put up here in a little bit. But what happens is these functional medical doctors have actually started recognizing gluten as one of the main problems when they started treating people with a multitude of different, illnesses. And the main problem during the early stages, through the support of their functional medicine practitioners, many of these health issues can be entirely avoided if they had avoided gluten. Gluten, however, is not the only concern when it comes to solving leaky gut. So now I'm going to start covering the other issues that can contribute to this syndrome as well. Much like the additives and preservatives that we're consuming, I think it was 150 pounds a year that flood our food supply, the pesticides are a big part of what's on our plates today. It's the pesticides. We have the GMOs, which are resistant to the pesticides, which means they can just keep spraying. And the herbicides as well. And there are 3 million tons of pesticides used worldwide each year, and more than 16,000 chemicals are involved in the production of the pesticides. And studies to ensure their safety on humans has been really limited, and they're using them on our food with no documented research at all. While we're not entirely sure of the safety on human health, we do recognize strong links between pesticide exposure and nervous system disorders. I know someone from my hometown specifically who worked on a farm was exposed to a new pesticide. This was about 15 years ago. He manifested some really severe nervous system disorder that treatment, they just basically, when he went to the doctors, they told him that there was, he was just going to have to live with this neuropathy for the rest of his life. However, his wife, and I come from a very small town in southern West Virginia where integrative medicine and functional medicine, no one really knows much about it there. But his wife was not willing to take that answer, and she found an integrative medicine doctor, a naturopath actually, down in South Carolina. And anyway, he got treatment and he no longer suffers from the neuropathy issues. But it's also linked to immune system suppression, reproductive damage, hormonal imbalances, thyroid issues, type 2 diabetes, obesity, asthma, migraine headaches, attention disorders, and developmental delay in children. The magnitude that these pesticides, along with the steroids, hormones, antibiotics, and excitotoxins that are used in our food supply, it's frightening. The more I learn about it, the scarier it is, and the more that I only eat organic, because to me it's worth spending the extra money, because in the long run it's protecting my health. But I do understand they also have a list called the Dirty Dozen, where if you look that up, the Dirty Dozen, those seem to be like they test produce every year, and they come up with the top 12 that have contain the most pesticides, and it's advised that you at least buy those. And at the top of that almost always are your leafy greens. If I say to eat one thing organic, if you have to, make choices because of budgeting, I say leafy greens. Start there. But anyway, to think that it isn't a main component of the leaky gut trend as these pesticides have increased, that's also there's an increase in both. So it's just impossible to think that they're not linked. So medication, right? It's severely overprescribed, especially in the past. The antibiotics, we all know how we have antibiotic resistant bacteria now. It's been overprescribed in our current medical model. I feel like physicians are getting more wise to this, and they're being a little bit more careful about what they're prescribing. But it's not necessarily their fault. That's what they were trained to do. They were trained to medicate the symptoms. And even when they're unsure of the cause, you treat the mechanism through what they call small molecule medicine or pharmaceuticals. And in short term, it seems it does work, because what happens is you do get a relief of your symptoms or your discomfort. But what isn't taken into account is how these excessive prescriptions are affecting our bodies. For example, the statins, I think, is one of the most highly prescribed drugs out there, and they're used to lower our cholesterol. But they have also been shown to lower our vitamin D and our CoQ10 levels. And while it might be lowering your cholesterol, it's simultaneously causing nutrient deficiencies, muscle fatigue, increased blood pressure, and a weakened immune system. The NSAID painkillers, like the ibuprofen, naproxen, and aspirin, they contribute to vitamin C and iron deficiencies, which can leave us vulnerable to disease and also erode the mucosal lining of our stomachs. And then we're also another top prescription are the acid reduction medications. Those actually hinder the digestion of protein, calcium, and vitamin B12, and they are linked to chronic pain issues as well. A lot of people don't even realize that a lot of time indigestion is not from an overproduction of acid. Often, and again, I'm going to refer you to some functional medicine, because it's always best to have tests from a professional regarding all of these, before you would start supplementing with hydrochloric acid. But a lot of times as we age, we don't produce enough acid. So it's actually a lack of acid inhibiting your digestion. And then that can cause acid reflux, because your food is actually coming back up because it's not digesting. And then there is still some acid. So it burns, because the acid, when it comes up with that undigested food, it does cause the burning. And that's why the acid reducing medications, again, relieve the symptoms, because it does reduce the amount of acid, but it's also hindering your digestion. But long-term use of antidepressants too, that's another big one. It significantly impacts our gut's motility and causes digestive issues as well. And lastly, it's important to note that almost all medications are unable to differentiate between good bacteria in our gut, like the antibiotics, or the illness. If it's the antibiotics, it's just going for all the bacteria, right? And that's why you've been told to take a round of probiotics if you've had to take some antibiotics. Antibiotics, the discovery of penicillin was actually a very good one. I'm not knocking modern medicine at all, or Western medicine. It has its place in our health system, but it does result in an altered microbiome and a much greater risk of infections. So drugs offer a lot of unintended consequences that can affect our health very badly. And again, like I said, there are situations where drugs are the solution, such as life-threatening infections or surgeries, and without immediate emergency needs of medication. If it's not an emergent need, chronic illnesses are best treated when you get to the root cause of them. And that's the issue, underlying issue, rather than to temporarily patch the problem with drugs. But we can begin to do this by understanding the critical elements necessary for healthy gut function. So let's start talking about what are the elements so that we can have healthy gut function. So there's 5 critical elements or defenses that our gut truly needs to function in a healthy manner. I'm going to list these in order from the outermost layer of defense, and it starts with your mucosal IgA, which is your immunoglobulin A, another antibody. And this antibody found in the mucous membranes of our gut lining is considered your first line of defense in your digestive tract, right? Then you have your tight junctions, which I mentioned, and that's the small proteins that are responsible to hold the gut cells linings together. And these proteins are what's most directly affected by leaky gut syndrome. Then we have gastro-associated lymphoid tissue, that's GALT. And that's your gut's concentrated immune system. Again, 70% of our immune system altogether is your GALT, gastro-associated lymphoid tissue. And this is the gut's last and most powerful layer of defense. And the accessory defenses are our friendly bacteria. As I mentioned, we have more bacteria cells in our bodies than we do our own cells. And this bacteria communicates with the GALT. And it warns it of potential danger, so that there is a symbiotic relationship with your friendly guys, the friendly bacteria. And then your stomach acid, again, I was mentioning that. It's absolutely essential for digestion and absorption of nutrients, as well as defense. It defends us against infections, a healthy amount of stomach acid. And if there's any dysfunction in any of these lines of defenses, you need to evaluate, again, with a medical professional, functional medicine practitioner, to find which one is being affected through testing, so that you can heal and be treated properly. So the first step of healing is to rule out the fundamental causes of leaky gut. It's important to recognize it's very rarely only one cause. It's usually there's a combination of several that are causing the damage. So you must first rule out or begin to recognize either vitamin deficiencies, and you can get that through functional nutrition tests. They'll test for vitamin deficiency. Then you need to be tested for infectious pathogens through blood work or GI tract tests. They can test you for heavy metal toxicity through your urine or hair. Gluten sensitivity, you can be tested for that. And environmental allergies, and those are your skin and blood tests that you're probably familiar with for allergies. And if any of these come back positive, that's your first step of instructions with your doctor. You address the deficiency or implement a dietary change if that's necessary, limit exposure to any kind of allergens that come up in your tests, and then consider, some detoxification methods under the guidance of a professional. And once you have a better understanding of your body's unique needs to you, you can begin the formal functional medicine protocol under the guidance of your practitioner, your functional medicine doctor. And so that protocol is known as the 4 R's, and I'm going to talk about that right now. So the first R, the 4R program is going to help you heal from the digestive stress, reverse your complications, gut complications, and rebalance your gastrointestinal microbiome. And it's a great tool, and it helps you acknowledge and treat the health issues and dysfunctions for your personal health needs. So the first R stands for remove. So once you have the test ran, you eliminate whatever the problem foods or toxins, or if there's a low-grade infection or any kind of oxidative stress, whatever they come, from the test. And they often start with an elimination diet, which I've done, and that helps you identify your food problems. And you have your top foods that you tend to have sensitivities to. You remove those, eliminate them from your diet, and then one by one you reintroduce them, and to see what exactly is causing the issue. The second R stands for repair. So once you've removed the problem, you begin the repair process, and you reintroduce a clean whole foods diet full of the essential nutrients that your body needs. And that repair can be very specific with supplements according to your specific needs. The third R stands for restore, which is to repopulate your gut with healthy bacteria. So that's through probiotics. You can do that through probiotic foods, and you're really just restoring proper balance of your gut flora. And the fourth is replace. So replace can be digestive enzymes, supplements with antioxidants or foods full of antioxidants, which fruits and vegetables are all loaded with those. Immune boosting vitamins that promote sustainable and healthy digestion. There are specific amino acids. And the functional medicine practitioners are trained in this protocol, and they're enthusiastic about making sure that your individualized needs are addressed during your healing process. And many of the functional medical doctors, they even have health coaches on staff to support you along your journey, because it's easy to say and do these things, but you go to a dietitian and you get like, oh, you can eat these foods and don't eat that. But, it's always not always, change is a process and the coaches are there to support you. So one of my favorite, and I'm going to share this with you right now, one of my favorite functional medicine primary care clinics, they operate by membership actually. And it's actually pretty affordable. And I think you can even, because she is a medical doctor, an MD, she can be considered your primary care physician, and part of your services can be covered by your health insurance, depending on what your health insurance looks like. And part of your membership includes health coaching. And it's more preventative care, although she does, but like the goal, if you're having some issues, they're going to treat those issues and get you healthy and get you rebalanced. And then it's all about maintenance and preventative care after that. But anyway, I wanted to share this link because I love this clinic and the way that they've structured their business. It's very forward. I think we're going to see more medical care move towards this model that she's implemented. So let's break down the 4 R's that we just talked about: remove, repair, restore, replace. So you may have already removed things that you already knew were detrimental, and such as gluten, or you might have food allergies you already know about. But you also want to remove much of the chemical burden in your daily life, such as pesticides on foods, the genetically modified organisms, the GMOs, unnecessary medications, and you want to remove the unnatural household cleaners. I have a class coming up on removing the toxic from your cleaning. You guys, some of you might already be signed up for that one. So pesticides on your foods, get rid of the GMOs, any kind of unnecessary medication. I'm not saying come off your medications. I'm saying talk to a functional medicine doctor and let them tell you if there's anything that you can come off of. And removing the toxic cleaners out of your house. Once you have an understanding of what should be removed from your daily life, and you begin to implement those changes, and it's usually good to do it one at a time, because trying to do everything at once can be overwhelming. It's time to begin repairing the damage that had previously done. And this is done by calming the chronic inflammation and reintroducing the nutritious foods, digestive enzymes I mentioned before, probiotics, essential fiber, vitamins, minerals, and acids. And some people, these steps might mean implementing intermittent fasting, supplementation, or even a personalized diet plan that can cater specifically to your health needs. And again, I know I keep saying this, but it's of specific importance to consult with your functional medicine practitioner to be sure you're beginning the most appropriate repair route that's, specific for your case. Nutrients have to be replaced for effective healing. So everyone's needs are highly individualized, but there are some common supplements that have been proven to be helpful in the gut healing process. And these are your probiotics and prebiotics. Probiotics are the healthy gut bacteria that you're going to inoculate yourself with through a daily supplement. And if you've never taken probiotics, it's good to start with like a low dose, somewhere around 10 billion, and slowly work your way up. And then prebiotics are actually the fibers and found in vegetables such as leeks, onions, garlic. And they actually feed the healthy bacteria. So while you're inoculating yourself with healthy bacteria, you're also, you can also get prebiotics in supplement form, but it's good to get it through your diet as well. And then the digestive enzymes have played a key role in my life, and they help you digest your food more efficiently. And then fiber, again, collagen is important because most of our body is made up of collagen. It's a structural protein in almost every tissue. Turmeric supports a healthy inflammatory system and has a world of other benefits. L-glutamine is an amino acid that feeds, that's a primary energy source for our intestines, and quercetin can be helpful. Now, these are only suggestions, and again, stressing it's very important to have a comprehensive test ran by a functional medicine practitioner before you begin any supplement regimen. Because everyone's nutritional needs vary. And the main takeaway from this is that you should not solely rely on your supplements. They are used to help your healing process, to support the healing process. But the goal is to get your body in a point where it's sustaining its wellness naturally and you are supporting its ability with whole foods and healthy lifestyle choices long term so that you can support your health through that whole foods and healthy lifestyle. You don't need piles and piles of pills. The most difficult part of health is maintaining it. So once you get a strong foundation during your healing process, you need to take that time during your healing process to really make the lifestyle changes where you're instilling a proper diet, whole foods, making good lifestyle choices. That includes stress management, your sleep, right? Exercise, water, and do that so that you can then instill it and make it work long-term habits, right? Or you're going to fall right back into the same gut-destroying patterns if you don't start implementing some long-term changes that you can sustain. And it's a journey. Just remember, health is a journey, not a destination. It's good to instill these things one step at a time. And again, like I say, it's not the destination, it's the vehicle. Health is your vehicle to get you so that you can live a fulfilling, positive, happy life with your family, the people that you love. And there's plenty of research now, just to wrap up, there's plenty of research on the dangers of leaky gut. It's still considered a medical mystery. There's still a lot of ongoing research, and many cases go misdiagnosed. So that means they're not properly treated. So it's really crucial if you think that you're having some issues and you really, think that addressing your gut, that you work with a doctor familiar with the condition and start in functional medicine. If you have issues that Western medicine maybe hasn't been able to address, maybe get a second opinion with a functional medicine doctor, and they'll perform some appropriate tests and support you along your journey. And start with the fundamentals in your daily routines by honoring your body's unique needs, and don't skip the guesswork, right? But you can always, implementing whole foods is a really good place to start. Does anybody have any questions? I know I covered a lot today. I really want to thank you guys for coming out again, spending your busy schedule, taking some time out of that to experience this class with me. I am passionate about sharing this topic and anything health related to support you. Interesting. Thank you, Rebecca. And for people who are eager to transform their health and really just want to take care of themselves, you guys have been fantastic. Thank you for being here. And thank you, Angie. My cousin's here. I love you. Yeah, June, thank you too. And guys, here's my email address. Let me just put it in here. I really welcome your emails for any questions. And if I can't answer your questions, I can most certainly find a resource for you. Oh, thank you, Rebecca. Yes, good. And Rebecca, again, if you think about it and you have any questions, reach out. I'm always here to support everyone. I love what I do. All right, guys. Thank you again, and happy healing and happy living. Thank you so much.